We're waiting to hear from Paul Ryan, the outgoing Speaker of the House. His final remarks as Speaker. He opted, as you know, not to run for re-election back in Wisconsin. He's going to enjoy private life right now. He has been in Congress since first elected in 1998. Of course, he served as the running mate for Mitt Romney in 2012. And people forget, whatever the rap you have against him, he didn't do enough to help Republicans or whatever. He was among the earliest to sort of take on entitlements, whether you see that as a good or a bad thing, or at least to slow their inexorable growth. And, of course, he famously was branded as throwing Granny off a cliff for that. That was then. This is him now at the Library of Congress to say his goodbyes to the Center for Freedom and Prosperity, Dan Mitchell, and RealClearPolitics Associate Editor and columnist A.B. Stoddard. You know, A.B., I can remember when he came on in 2015, very grudgingly, to take on the speakership role from John Boehner and all. He didn't want it. It was not in his bailiwick of things he wanted to do, but he was greeted as this triumphant guy coming to sort of save Congress. And like so many of his predecessors, it didn't work out. What happened?
Well, I think it actually worked out exactly as Paul Ryan anticipated that it would, and that's the reason he didn't want the job. I think the idea of all this hype that he could do things differently than John Boehner with the same conference, facing the same internal politics, was really folly. I mean, it was not going to be just by the touch of his amiable Wisconsin style a different job. And so he gave up a lot. He knew it would probably preclude him from running for president in the near future. And
that was it. I'm not meaning to jump on you. Trey Gowdy's getting ready to introduce him, so I do want to get to Dan on this. Dan, his legacy will always be that the deficits grew under his watch. I mean, others had a hand in that. But how will he be remembered leading Congress?
Two things. First, he played an important role in actually getting us to a position where we could get a decent tax reform last year, lowering the corporate rate, scaling back on the state and local deduction. That's a real accomplishment for the American economy. And number two, we didn't get entitlement reform, but at least he looked at the issue, he took it seriously, and he proposed genuine, real, meaningful, pro-senior citizen Medicare and Medicaid reform. And the sad news is, if you sort of peer behind the curtain of Washington, a lot of us were working for years to push for entitlement reform on the theory that we would have a sympathetic president in 2017. Instead, we got Donald Trump, and that's where all of our hopes sort of disappeared, because he's not in favor of entitlement reform.
You know, I can remember him talking about that, A.B., at the time, and I said, you know, you're touching the third rail. He said, but Neil, I'll have lots of company. He didn't. I don't know whether those ads played into it, that, you know, kicking Granny off a cliff, or the fact that just trying to rein in the growth of an entitlement program was seen as inhumane and cruel, and few takers in either party to help him.
Right, that's true. I mean, not only was he not, it was going to be very hard to bring the Democrats around. They tried to come to some kind of a weaker deal than Paul Ryan was proposing, what was originally called the roadmap. And as you're right, it was sort of a really radical, politically suicidal proposal. There was a little bit of a weaker measure that he might have gotten to with John Boehner, with President Obama, but it was tough to bring the Democrats around. This is really a result, actually, of Obama in office kind of refusing to deal with a lot of the sentiment among the white working class after the economic crash in 2007 and 8, and the refusal by Republican leaders to acknowledge it as well. They were still championing Medicare overhauls, repeal of Obamacare. They were against tax cuts for the wealthy, and they were free traders. And what happened was Donald Trump figured out that the base of the Republican Party has radically changed. They don't care about government spending. They don't care about debt. They care about the wall. They care about immigration. They want a deeper safety net. They don't want entitlement reform. The tax cut really didn't help them out so much. The Republican National Committee all but admitted that in internal polling and messaging before the election. And they look at someone like Paul Ryan and say, you know, you're just of another time. And they're anti-free trade, as you know.
I find it so ironic. This young guy was picked by Mitt Romney because he was representing that new guard. He was going to balance out an older man at the top of the ticket to represent the future of the Republican Party. Now the Republican Party is, you know, kicking him on the way out. I just wonder, Dan, the risk this now means of politicians who even dare try to get a handle on deficits, Republican or Democrat, or try to address long-term budgetary, concerns as our debt just piles up and away.
Let me first highlight something that was a real accomplishment of Paul Ryan. The House of Representatives, 5 or 6 years in a row, voted for the Ryan budgets that did include Medicaid and Medicare reform, and the Senate, even after the turnover in 2014, voted for them. So I think everything was in a good spot.
And by the way, we were very close to a major pact and agreement with the president at the time and John Boehner at the time that fell apart at the last second. But we were very close to something that could have been historic, and of course, it never was to be.
Yeah, that would have been trivial. I think the Ryan budget with the right Republican president in 2017, we could have saved the long-term fiscal future of the country. Now I'm terrified where we're heading because Trump or whatever Democrat takes his place, bad news on controlling government spending.
Yeah, no one wants to anymore. Guys, I want to thank you.